There you go. So, welcome to the Word Up Bumpy of the 27th of March 2024. This week, I, Herb Miller, one of the co-organisers of the WordPress Portsmouth meetup, are going to give you a brief introduction to my favourite contact form or contact forms, and then we're going to have a jolly old discussion about it. The people who are attending here today have replied with different answers to what sort of contact forms they use. And so we can possibly learn quite a bit from each other as to how they use them. So without further ado, I'm going to move on to the, right. So we have a code of conduct at this meetup, which you can find by visiting our website, wp-pompey.org.uk, and that URL down there on the bottom right-hand side, which says basically be nice. We have a Twitter/X account, which we probably haven't used for a while, but if we did tweet on there, we might tweet with the hashtag WP Pompey or #online WP Meetup, and we have a UK Slack channel, and we have a channel in there called Meetup Portsmouth. We used to have some sponsors when we physically met. Red IT sponsored us for the venue, and 34SP, our hosting company, sponsored us for pizzas and other refreshments. And they both still offer a discount if you were to use their hosting, as you can see there. This meeting is being recorded. So here we are, an AI-generated image of a contact form. As you can see, it looks pretty much like most contact forms, except it seems to have illegible labels and well, probably just rubbish. Oh, here we go. One more person. Welcome, Maya. We've only just started, so here we are with this is what a contact form could look like if it were generated by AI. So it's very simple for what I've got to talk about here, and then we can get on discussion. So we'll have a look at a sample contact form, go through the basic requirements of contact forms, both functional and non-functional. And then I'll list several different contact form plugins, and they'll be listed in with relation to how many downloads there have been of that contact form from WordPress.org if they happen to be on there. And then we'll discuss that simple thing called spam, which is what happens with most contact forms if you're not careful. Here's a sample contact form which is created using the WP Pompey website, and it's a contact form that exists in my plugin called Oik. And it's a very simple contact form. It has 4 fields and a button. The fields are a name and email address, which are both mandatory, a subject and a message, which aren't. If you try to do something and don't fill in your name, a little message comes back, please fill out this field, which is just provided by HTML. And if you only fill in part of your email address, it says, no, you need to put an @ sign in there. And eventually you try to submit it, and you type, in this case, I typed in, this must be the subject of the email, and I typed in a message, and this is the content. I pressed enter, and it sent an email to WP Pompey, which contains the message that I sent, basically, my name, my email address, the subject, my message, and it also sent a link of where the contact form was submitted from. What it could have done is it might have said, oh, and in the reply it said, thank you for your submission, and the contact form was no longer displayed. What it could have done was say, we would like to thank you for your submission, which is the way it says of, I've detected this thing as being spam and I'm not going to bother to send it. So that's my nice way of putting it in there. Other contact forms do something similar. So what does the contact form need to do? Well, as far as I'm concerned, it needs to receive some input from the visitors on your website, and it will probably send an email or two to interested parties for that contact form. It may store the input somewhere. It might implement some form of spam checking so it doesn't accept absolute rubbish. There could be some fields which are mandatory. Other fields might have some form of validation and sanitization so that it doesn't cause any problems when that information is displayed somewhere. After submission of the contact form, it might redirect you to another page with a thank you message, or it might stay on the same page. There could be different types of input fields that you could fill in. There could be checkboxes, radio buttons, text, numbers, dates, all that sort of stuff. And some of those fields could be conditional, depending on the value that you've filled in on other stuff. Some forms might take multiple pages for you to complete them. I'm not sure if a contact form needs to do that. Some forms might accept uploads of images or videos or audio or something. And if you're going to use a contact form plugin, you might expect to have some form of user interface to create those things. Now, non-functional requirements are things which are features that don't necessarily mean to say they have to do something. It's just the way they behave. So the performance and quality and all that sort of stuff. Well, I put GDPR in there, and I don't know if I should have done. GDPR standing for General Data Privacy Regulations. Yeah. And user-friendly was a nice thing. It might be able to respond to you by doing everything in JavaScript. Secure, so that people can't mess about with your system. And if you've got a contact form on a highly cached website, it should be probably cache busting, so it doesn't display stuff that it's saved previously from some other person. And then there's different types of contact forms, the basic contact form being a contact form, which we've seen. And then these are some of them listed from Jetpack. So by default, when you say, give me a form, please, it says, what do you want? You can have an RSVP form, registration, appointment, feedback, lead capture, Salesforce lead form, an opt-in form. And if you go to WP Forms, it will list about 20 or 30 different forms, which are all slightly different because they've got one extra field somewhere. Some people, one person who's eating at the moment, have an awful lot of contact forms to do all sorts of different things. And hopefully he's going to tell us all about them later. So here we go. Let's have a look at some. There are quite a few contact forms available from WordPress.org, and the number on the left is where they are in position of the total downloads ever of the plugin from WordPress.org. And we can see contact form 7, which is the one that most people have tried or said they use, is top of the list as the 5th most downloaded plugin of 200 million or so. And number 8 also in the top 10 or 12 is WP Forms contact form, WP Forms Lite. Then we have Ninja Forms, which I've heard of, and then quite a lot of the other ones I've never even heard of until I made that list. So those are ones that provide contact forms as that's their job. Other plugins provide contact forms as part of the plugin, and Jetpack has a contact form module which uses a contact form called Grunion, which used to be shortcode only and now is available as WordPress blocks. And my plugin called Oik also has a contact form, which again used to be a shortcode only one, but now I've introduced blocks as well, just for the fun of it. And then you can go and buy a premium plugin such as Elementor Pro, which provides a form widget, or the Divi theme provides it, or there's this one which have been around for many years, and I bought it once 14 years ago, Gravity Forms, and really made hardly any use of it. Now, what you do want to have is a contact form that can detect and spam and stop it sending to you. Now, obviously, my contact form doesn't do that because I've received all these messages and I really don't care about them, so I just delete them. But I don't receive hundreds and thousands of them, fortunately, at the moment, because I've done something to improve the number of things I reject and say thank you for trying to submit something to me. But I'm sure there's many different solutions that people can use for different contact forms to do their spam. Some of them deal with their spam, some of them are good, and some of them are not so good. One of which is called Akismet, which is quite a popular plugin available from WordPress. It gets installed as part of your default install, doesn't it, after all? But if you want to use it, you're only supposed to pay for it. So that's my bit. Here's the answers I got from people. Paul Tampson, who said he was going to be here but isn't, said he uses Contact Form 7 largely to support Weber booking. Phil said custom. Steve, Contact Form 7, and someone else did. And Ali, I think you said Elementor Forms and Pioneer add-on forms for conditional logic, and I've never heard of that one. And Maya, is that how you pronounce your name? I think you are a nun.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much.
Yes. And I wrote Oik contact form block because I wrote it and I use it on most of my websites. But there again, I don't really expect people to have to contact me about much. So that's it. I've finished my waffle. Who wants to demonstrate their favorite contact form and tell us all about it?
I've got a few examples of Contact Form 7 with some add-ons.
Righto. I'll stop sharing and you start.
I only just put this together just in case you ask somebody to participate. You always do so much work. But I use Contact Form 7. I've used it probably as long as I've used WordPress. That's probably at least 12 years now. But I like it. One major reason that a lot of people use it, I think, is because it's free. And there's a lot of, it's well supported with add-ons to give you different functionality. So I've got just a few examples just to try and demonstrate some of the things it can do. I have to forgive me this. The basic template, standard generated template is just a single column of fields with name, email, subject, and message. So with a little bit of HTML and a bit of CSS, you can put in different layouts. This is one where I just made it into 2 columns. Then you can extend that so you can have 3 columns.
What's the 3 dotty thing in the first name field?
The what?
The little red box button.
Oh, that's my last pass.
All right.
Then it gets a little bit cleverer. You can have conditional fields, so you fill in the details, fill in this first set of values, for example. Then if you want to add another set of boxes, you can click and add those in. And I think this one's set up to go to about 6, expand to about 6. So that's quite nice. It's got standard file upload, so you can add in files to upload. You can set limits. So I set this particular example to 3 megabytes per file. You can set the formats that it will accept. that again is just next extension. I think 4 is probably about as far as I would go, because otherwise it makes the boxes too small. It's also responsive. I don't think you can see this.
Oh, I was just about to ask that question.
There's another add-on you can do to make it multi-page. I don't know if this one will work actually, but we'll see. Yes, it does.
Hmm.
So that one will just send the form when it's filled in, send. This is a more sophisticated one with added drop downs I did for one of my clients. So if you want to add in another section, it adds in all these extra fields. No, that one can get quite complicated when it's all filled in. There's another one where you can drag and drop files into it. That seems to work quite well. I've got that working on the live site.
What sort of files do people submit then?
It's mainly photos. I mean, the form before was for a fencing contractor.
Mm.
So they got photographs of the site or any obstructions they've got to work around or anything like that. They can add 3 or 4 images. Obviously, you need to watch the size of the files that you're allowed to attach, because otherwise they'll get blocked by the email probably. They're too large.
Oh.
And then you've got a date picker option as well. So you can set the date. That's just a few examples of things I've used on live sites. The same, it's a bit of HTML and some CSS to style it. And you can style the forms as well if you wanted to as well.
So when you go into this contact form 7 and the admin, what does a conditional field look like?
Oh, it also, you've got an option to send auto response as well. When you configure the mail, you can enable make this mail too, so you can have an auto response to the customer.
Oh. When does it get sent? When does that get sent?
When the form is submitted, it automatically picks it up and sends it.
Does the submitted email get sent to the customer?
No.
Is there
No, I think that's right. The submitted one gets sent to the user.
yeah, but does it not also get copied to the customer just to prove they've done it?
Yeah, but that's what you can use the auto response, because you don't always want everything that's in the form to go
Right.
Who's the
back to the
customer? What do you mean by customer?
Well, the
person
user.
filling in the form.
Well, that's what the second email is for. That goes to the
Exactly. Yeah.
filler in of the form. I always said it, but I don't know why you wouldn't. But because otherwise they don't know that the forms work, do they?
No. Well, I don't always do it, but in most cases I do. So this is the conditional fields. This gets added when it's a plugin for Contact Form 7. And I'll show you this is the HTML. You set up groups. There you go. You set up this is the bit that's hidden initially until it's activated. You set up those conditions in this panel. So once it shows detail, if you tick the checkbox on that form, if you remember,
Yeah.
once you check that, satisfies the condition as yes, and it opens up that next group. It's quite straightforward.
Mm. And what's the name of this plugin you use for the additional fields, conditional fields?
It's conditional fields for Contact Form 7, surprisingly.
Seems like a good name. Yeah.
Yeah, just search for Contact Form 7.
Mm.
And there's loads come up. They're all in the WordPress repository.
Mm.
But so I've never really had any problems with it. I've been using it for probably about 12 years. For spamming, I tend to use reCAPTCHA, Google reCAPTCHA. And
Contact Form 7 doesn't provide its own spam checking at all, does it?
No, it's recommended to use reCAPTCHA. They used to have their own little code to put in.
I think it does. I haven't had any spam. I think it does do something. I think it's connected with ASCII-Met.
Akismet. Well, all right.
It does hook into Akismet. It doesn't by default record it or save any of the emails into the database. But if you want to do that, you can add another plugin called Flamingo.
And that's what you do, Andrew?
And then
That's what I do. Yeah, I've got Flamingo.
Right.
and then if you if you want to use Akismet, you can then works together with Contact Form 7 and Flamingo. It seems to work quite well.
Mm.
Another thing I've used is a honeypot plugin that adds in just a hidden field.
Yeah.
But trying to defeat all the spammers is an absolute nightmare these days. I think that's all I got.
Well, the other way of doing it, of course, is not have a contact form.
Yeah, but it's not many sites you can get away without having some sort of contact form.
Or you can have a telephone number or something.
True.
I'm just having a look at mine in Contact 7, Form 7. It's got integration, and there it integrates with both ASCII-Met and reCAPTCHA. So mine and I haven't been getting any spam. I don't echo what Steve is saying there, that, you know, I mean, the spam all goes into Askimet somewhere. It doesn't end up in the forms.
Kismet seems to work quite well. I had to go to enable that in the end on my site because I was getting so much.
Yeah.
I've got one customer I've got a number of forms. I've got a reCAPTCHA set up on there, but he's getting spammed. He was getting like 50 a minute at one time. He's getting past reCAPTCHA.
I received an email from Automatic about Akismet saying this is what you should do, and one of the things they said was don't use reCAPTCHA anymore because users don't like it. They don't like.
I've got V3 of reCAPTCHA, and it doesn't show you anything.
All right.
Yeah, I switched a couple of sites over to V3, and I've switched them back because it was blocking everything. And
reCAPTCHA is a pain in the butt.
Sorry?
reCAPTCHA is a pain in the butt if you want to minimize your exposure to Google. You have to, if I come across a site where I have to use reCAPTCHA, I have to shut that page down, that tab down, and open up a private window, enable Google, and then I can use reCAPTCHA without Google finding out all about my history and everything else. Because they spy it. The amount of stuff that goes to Google is just unbelievable when you use reCAPTCHA.
Are you getting up to something naughty?
No.
Why are you worried about it then?
Because they find out about you and they send you targeted advertising.
Well, that might be a good thing, mightn't it?
No, it's not. I don't
never
want
a good
advertising.
thing. Well,
it wastes my bandwidth I have to pay for.
Do you not watch the TV then?
I skip over ads.
How do you do that on live TV?
I don't watch live TV. I record everything.
Fair enough. But I mean, adverts on TV, adverts are paying for your television, aren't they? It's a trade-off, and it's the same with Google. You're trading off not paying for all these things like Google Maps by allowing.
I don't use Google Maps. I don't use Google for anything.
I know you don't, but I do. Lots of people do.
Doesn't DuckDuckGo or something like the other browsers not work at all then when you got reCAPTCHA?
No, if you block google.com, reCAPTCHA doesn't work.
No, it won't do, will it? But I mean, it's inevitable. In a lot of cases, you've got no option. It's just a fact of life these days. You've got to accept it. I mean, most browsers can block pop-ups and things like that now. So down to you. You can disable a lot of it in your browser, can't you?
I mean, I do. If I watch anything on YouTube, it's done through a private browser. And Google still complains about blocking adverts.
Can't you just be somebody else?
Isn't it?
Steve, do you have to be yourself? Can't you just pretend you're somebody else and then Google's...
I don't log on to any, I once had a Google account and that was like 15 years ago, and it still thinks I could log on to that account, even though I deleted it. That's how much of a memory Google has.
Like get a VPN.
A VPN doesn't stop Google remembering you. I've been using a VPN for years.
I think you
regularly
should
change the internet.
I think the simplest explanation is for you to stop worrying about it, because I don't think it's any. You know, there's plenty other more serious things to worry about than. I mean, whether Google stores lots of information about you is you know, unless you're a criminal, I don't know what you're worried about. You know, so it knows that you're a middle-aged man who lives in wherever you live. So what? Nothing bad's going to happen to you.
I'm with you on it, Andrew.
Thank you.
No mind. It's not to do with contact forms, is it? So let's move on.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
No, but it's
Shall I
a
stop
Well, it might
sharing?
be.
Somebody else can have a go.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's this whole thing depends on your personal level of security or paranoia, if you prefer,
I don't know.
and people vary. In the group that I belong to, we got some people who are absolutely desperately concerned, the same as Steve is, about anything to do with the big companies, and resent having to log into any service at all. And others, most of us don't care, but it varies.
Well, I suppose I agree. I mean, when it comes to visiting a website that says we want you to decide what cookies to use, I decide, well, I won't visit the website then.
If you like, I can
Personal
show
preference.
you Flamingo if you want to see that.
Aye, why not? Yes, please. And then
To,
Ali's going to show us Elementor.
Oh, do you want to do that afterwards? I'll do it afterwards then.
Which one? Flip a coin.
I'll let Ali go first because
Just on that cookies, obviously I get why cookies are kind of sometimes a nuisance, but they actually aid the user experience a little bit in terms of the
yeah.
that's why they're there. They remember what you've done, so they display better content. Not to piss you off, I'll be honest. It's more a case of giving you a better experience on the website. So that's my take.
It's, as long as they're not cookies that are targeting your following and doing all those things.
No,
There's different types of cookies that are good.
Yeah, it is. It's whether it's third party or first party cookies, right?
Yeah. Right. So I'm just going to show you 3 forms very
Right.
simply. I said WordPress developer based in Petersfield. Been doing this for about 5 years. Prior to that, marketing manager, various bits and pieces. Got clients spread all around the country. Some local, some further afield. This is an estate agent based in Dartford of all places. It's a very simple form, although it looks quite complex. Asking for names. Some of this stuff's required. So requirement of fields, for example, address. Do you plan on renting with other occupants? Yes. Then you can obviously add, like the previous incumbent showed, how that works. So you can get conditional logic for that. Employment, etc. Add additional employment, remove additional employment. Quite simple, very relatively straightforward. Obviously, when someone submits this, it gets sent to the user or the owner of the business, their email address. It can be sent to MailChimp. It can be sent to the end user that filled out the form just to confirm they filled it out and displayed all the fields, which works quite well. Another one, this is more local. This is based in Chichester. This is a booking form. So for a holiday company, they basically put in their details, name of all the other guests, similar thing, add occupant. So up to 16, I think they can have. Remove fields, property code, flights. They can even put in the price. And obviously this allows them to calculate 25% of the price. And then they can pay not over the phone, but in this case, it's by direct bank transfer. So basically, or credit card. So basically, once they fill in this form, they'll get the end user will get a PDF. The PDF will get sent to the end user of the booking form with the card details they need to pay. Okay. Slightly, probably a little bit more complex. This is a charity based in Petersfield who specialises in end-of-life palliative care. We work with them for about 5 years. We work with them on their donation form. So basically, very simply, people can put in a donate £10 button. It then has a conditional field here where that picks up how much they want to donate. Put in the email address, first name, last name, requirements, who they want to donate from, what the reason for. So if it was other, it can show other. Gift day declaration. And then obviously you can make a single donation off the back of that, and that goes through to Stripe. Obviously they get, people using this for funerals and sadly, end of life palliative care is that type of situation. So making single donations, but in addition to that, they can also set up regular, monthly, quarterly, or annually. So monthly obviously takes it monthly, quarterly every 3 months, and then annually every 12 months. Which in the scheme of things, they didn't have this before. Looking at the figures that they've managed to, in addition to all the other fundraising they do, the donation forms probably attributed about £80,000 to their business.
That's good.
Can I ask you a question about Stripe?
Yep.
They charge you, don't they?
Charities get a lesser commission than like normal businesses would.
But do you actually get the money from Stripe, or does Stripe pass you on to some other app that takes the money?
No, Stripe is the payment gateway. So Stripe or PayPal are the payment gateway providers. So Stripe obviously take, for normal businesses, I think it's 1.5 plus 20p per transaction. Obviously takes credit card, debit card details. They do all the security as well, which I think is mission critical for any business, in terms of fraudulent people using their bank card details, etc. And then you get the payment within 2 days.
Well, do you prefer it to PayPal?
I'd say that the convenience of Stripe is far better than PayPal because you don't need to have an account with PayPal like you do with PayPal, sorry. So you have to have an account with PayPal.
You don't have to have an account with PayPal.
But I just find that it's easier if you want to set up Stripe, it's just easier to integrate it that way. They could do PayPal, but it's, Stripe is, I think, more secure given.
But the reason I say that is because Contact Forms 7 has a integration with Stripe, and so I tried to do it. I thought I was getting I thought it was much more expensive, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, PayPal is more is more expensive than Stripe.
No, I thought Stripe was more expensive.
Okay.
I might be wrong about that. I'm not.
The commission fees for Stripe are a lot more favourable. I know that I having worked with a lot of businesses in terms of payment gateways, Stripe is one of the most preferred over PayPal. That's just the clients that we work with.
Okay, yeah.
But each payment gateway is going to have its own pros and cons. The ability to check out, the ability to payment times when you actually receive the payments, potentially even refunds in cases as well, and how you're charged for that. So each different payment gateway is going to have its own different limitations and benefits.
Sure.
So I definitely would say either PayPal or Stripe. In certain circumstances, PayPal will probably be more preferred if you're doing sort of e-commerce, potentially, for maybe a younger audience, even in some cases, Apple Wallet, that sort of stuff. But that has that functioning built into WooCommerce, which is a separate conversation.
One of our club members wanted to start taking payments, and he contacted both PayPal and Stripe, and PayPal didn't even bother to get back to him, whereas he got very good customer response from Stripe, so he ended up going with Stripe.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, most of these payment gateways are a faceless organization, aren't they? But Stripe actually have a customer service team. They also have a charity department. So if you do work with charities, you have to be approved as a charity partner. So you have to send some certification documentation to a real person, which makes it a much more credible organization to deal with.
Well, I'm being sponsored by PayPal. I'm not really. We have a charity. I do my stuff through a charity, and we get reduced commissions because we're a charity. So PayPal does that. I did notice that when I signed on to Stripe, they do start sending you emails, which PayPal don't, which I suppose made me a bit more suspicious that they're more anxious to do business with me than PayPal is. Maybe PayPal's bigger or something. But I mean, we started off with PayPal, so that's probably.
Yeah, I think to be fair, like the amount, I don't know. So like, just looking at here, the fees for PayPal. So they charge 30p per transaction, and then 1.29%, which again is probably slightly cheaper. I think Stripe is 1.5 plus 20p or per transaction. But there's a lot more opportunity. I suppose there's a lot more opportunity, like with PayPal to a certain extent, in terms of QR code donations and that side of things that you could use. Whereas Stripe is I consider Stripe to be much more of a serious business in terms of the back end security of it and the ability to scan businesses or scan people's credit card details. That's ultimately going to help reduce fraud.
Does that if when you go to Stripe,
Yep.
you have to put in your credit card details, don't you?
Yep. To buy something,
And, yeah. And so does the credit card company also take money off you? Or
it's
just
part of that 1.5% of
it's
Stripe.
part of it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're probably as broad as they're wide. I suppose I quite like PayPal because it stores your credit card details, so you don't have to remember them personally for me using. I know you can build an account then, but that's
where the security aspect comes in. The fact is, you're storing your credit card details for in PayPal. If you haven't got two-factor authentication on the PayPal account, strongly recommend you do that. But ultimately, if someone get access to it, and they can go spend your money like no tomorrow, can't they?
It's never happened to me, and I think they've got very good security at PayPal. In fact, they've got so good security. Sometimes they ring me up and I have to put a code in. So it's like it's ad hoc two-factor in authentication. So personally, I'm not worried about PayPal. I don't think it's unsafe, but I suppose different people have different ideas.
So Ali, those things there, that were they all done with Elementor?
So half of them were done with Elementor, and half of them were done with Peanut add-ons for Elementor, which allows a conditional logic.
Right. Is that a free plugin, or is it a?
So Elementor is a paid for plugin. Pay annually for a license for so many sites. Obviously, Peanut add-ons is an annual license as well.
Right.
But we find it a lot easier to set up conditional logic, especially for customers that want the framework, want to be able to do that sort of stuff, and even like in a nice way. I'm not saying anything about the examples. It's more a case of styling it, designing it, and working with the existing framework of the site. And also the other thing is that we try and, where possible, to use limited number of plugins on the site. All of the sites that we build are hosted with a decent server, and they're all pointed through Cloudflare, which hopefully reduces some of the spam issues that we've spoken about, because obviously that's another factor in all of this. But part of that is that we don't use a whole host of different plugins, because we know that can have conflict issues when we update, change plugins on the site. And B, obviously, if you do use multiple plugins, a whole host of different ones, sometimes those plugins can become unsupported and you're in a bit of a quandary. So we try and use less where appropriate.
I think Elementor will be supported for a while, especially if you're paying them lots of money for it. Right, Andrew, you can have a go at showing us your your stuff, and why did you switch as well? That'd be another question to ask.
Share a screen. Am I sharing a screen?
Yes. payments.abps.org.uk.
Okay, so this is here is contacts, and this is the integration. I'm actually, can you see that? I don't know what Brevo is, and then I've got Akismet and reCAPTCHA,
Mm.
and I also set up Stripe, but I didn't use it, and I don't know what constant contact is. I don't think I use that. Flamingo looks like this. So these are the this is the contact forms. So if you look at this one, it keeps all the
Am
all
I going to
this
have to
stuff.
edit this out?
Oh yeah, you might have to. Yeah, yeah, you might have to. Maybe I should have shown the
Test
ones. I should have shown yours.
All right, yeah.
Isn't this yours? I don't know what how. Yeah, that you might have to edit that out. Or mine. So that's Flamingo keeps all your all the data for you, which I
Right.
think is useful if you're
So did it not keep the message then, or did I not send the message when I sent that?
Yeah, it's
I don't
under
know.
inbound messages.
I don't know why it's doing that with me and you. Standing order. Well, there, yeah, I think it
All
should
right,
keep
okay.
that. Maybe you did it before I set it up properly
Mm.
or something, but normally it keeps everything like that. There's another. I didn't quite work it. I think that Steve is writing all his own CSS and HTML. Am I right in that?
I did. I mean, I've developed it gradually over a number of years.
There is this thing.
Project, and I just
All-
use the same code each time.
All the things that you talked about, there's another thing here called Smart Grid, which is, I don't know if I like these videos are on YouTube, and I like them because he's got a funny voice that makes me feel calm, or it's kind of ASMR. And if you want to have a look at these, if you're interested in Contact Form 7, it kind of rebuilds the whole form so that you can put them into a grid, and it looks rather different, and you can do all this other stuff like having various pages and having conditional fields. But I also use the same conditional field as plugin as Steve does, and I've used that. And this, I think, is one of our forms during the BPS. So mine looked like this, and it's got gift aid in it. And the only thing I've added is these little coloured boxes, but the rest of it is basically bog standard. And I think I put some stuff in. This is conditional fields, so if they say PayPal, you can go to the PayPal page and go and do that. Or if you say bank transfer, it tells you our banking details, which I don't think you have to edit out. And then the only when you go into this, I think Steve showed us this. I've lost it now. Contact forms. So join the BPS edit. So when you go into mail, you get this thing which you have to actually build it. It gives you some of the fields, but the actual message body you have to build. But it gives you up here all the what do you call these things? All the fields. So I take them and I put them into Word, and I put them in a horizontal format, and then I built this Excel spreadsheet where you can put them in here, and then you can put a description here. And this is just a table builder, and it comes back with a kind of table of entries, which might look a bit ugly. So it's like this. Can you see this?
Mm.
I'm trying to join in society. So that, I mean, that's the way I've done it. And that's really it for, what I've done with this contact forms. And Herb asked a bit about why I used to use something called VFB Pro, which I noticed Herb doesn't even register on Herb's list of contact forms. And people, I think WordFence keeps writing to me and saying this has been abandoned or something. But I think you can still buy it. So I don't really know what's happening to it. But anyway, I rewrote our forms in Contact Form 7. And I think it's quite good. It seems to do most of the things you want. And if you want to do more fancy things, you can have a look at this Smart Grid layout extension.
Just on the subject of constant contact, it's akin to MailChimp.
Sorry?
So you mentioned about what constant contact was.
Oh, yeah.
It's akin to MailChimp. So it's like an email marketing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
They said it was deprecated on there, didn't it? Didn't it say the constant contact interface was deprecated? So you
Did it
wouldn't
say
use it.
that? Integration? I don't know. We don't.
Down the bottom it was.
Revo's another one like mail.
This feature is deprecated. Yeah, you're not recommended to use it.
Yeah.
I don't know why he puts it there, really. But
The one thing I would say, I think is good. The one thing I didn't mention was obviously we do use WP Mail SMTP, because ultimately the emails sometimes don't actually get through.
do you use this one? Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do as well. I
Because
agree with you. It's very good.
it's a minefield when it comes to
Yeah.
deliverability. In terms of what email address you put in the from address, and B, the notification address, because ultimately it has to be the same as the domain domain name that you're currently using. Obviously, if you want to use we always try and use an authenticated SMTP email address, because then it proves that person is allowed to send from that specific email address and forces WordPress to send from that email address rather than the mail.php, which is just anything in there. Really.
I was just looking to see if I've got hundreds of things in my. Where does it show you where your all your old horrible messages? Does it show you that somewhere?
It's in Flamingo.
Is it in Flamingo? No, where does it show you all the ones it's
Yeah, if you look at
rejected?
look at the emails. There's all, and there's spam.
I thought somewhere in Kismet it actually shows you all your
Yeah, it hooks into Flamingo to show it apparently.
all right. I didn't see them in here.
The top there, it's got spam. Down, left. Up,
Left. All dates applied, bulk action.
Spam.
Why can't I see that?
The one at the top next to inbox, it says spam.
Oh, right. Oh, so I haven't got. Yeah, we are getting some.
I'd recommend removing those because that can take up some.
This isn't spam. Do I have to say this isn't spam? How do you get back? Why
So
can't I see that? I'm blind, aren't I?
if you click on it, you click on one,
Yeah, but this one,
and then on the right hand side it says not spam.
move to bin, not spam.
And
Maybe
then
you showed it twice. Yeah, thank you. How do you get back in there? No, inbound messaging. Anyway, you probably don't want to watch this, do you? Let me see if I can find a rude one. Here, this is one like herbs in Russian. So do you ever try and translate them, Herb?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I was
Well,
hoping that Olga might be able to translate them directly for us, but she's not here today.
yeah. It's probably something rude, isn't it?
Well, just copy and paste it into Google Doodah and see what it says. It probably says,
Translate selection to English.
yeah, do it on a.
Hello, my name is Ilya. I'm an SEO specialist, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's not rude. That's just...
Oh, there you go. That's all right.
Yeah, okay. I'll stop sharing. If I can. How do you stop share? I'll stop sharing. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm not quite sure what Maya said when she said me neither in response to Ali saying I don't mind sharing conditional logic and elemental forms, but she's gone off to another meeting now. But we have been joined by Petar. Are you there?
Hello, everyone.
I don't know if you're on a different time zone from us, but we started the meeting at 7 p.m. our time.
Yeah, the reason for the late was because there was a bit of overlap with another meeting.
Okay.
That was the later miss. So sorry about this.
That's all right.
So nice to meet you, all of you.
Hello. Where are you from?
Originally, I'm from Bulgaria, but at the moment I live since 4 years in UK,
Right.
in Watford. So
In where?
yeah,
Watford.
Watford. Yeah.
Right. And did you have any particular contact form you love to use and like to tell us about?
Can you repeat, please?
Do you have which contact forms are you most interested in?
I mean, contact form 7, but I saw that it's a WordPress meeting because I consider myself as a beginner, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to collect the information as much as I can,
Right.
and do some contacts with. Yeah.
Right.
And years ago, I used to use contact form 7, and yeah.
Right. What do you use now? Right, I've just received a message from Alan Fuller, who's on our Slack thing. He said he was the author of a couple of contact forms which I listed earlier on, and he's not here. Let's see what he said. He's also an author of an anti-spam plugin that integrates to many contact forms. Maybe I should make the 1 hour drive down to you sometime. Well, maybe you should, and that might be in May to come down to meet us, and when we have a physical meetup, which we'll get on to later. He also said, did you know that Jetpack contact form used to be called Grunion? And the answer is so. Do you want me to demonstrate a contact form that uses blocks? Fancy a bit of that?
Yeah, go on then.
All right, here we go. Right, show. Am I sharing anything?
That's a big block.
Is it the Albert Hall or somewhere?
It is.
Right, in that case, but how about that?
Word Up Pompey.
Right, okay, that's the right place. So why not go into here? Did I start something earlier? I think I might have started creating a post. Doesn't look like it, does it? Right, I'll or was it a page? All right, well, let's do a new page, why not? and we'll add a form. So we just go for form, shall we? Right, so here, this is the Jetpack one, which is a Jetpack's contact form, and here's my little one called OIK, which is the contact form. As you can see, when you hover over the different type of form you want to do, it displays a little example of it. But let's go and choose the Jetpack one. And this is where it enables you to choose different types of forms. So we'll just go for the standard contact form. And there it is. It's created a form which has a name, an email, a message, and a button. And this rubbish here is because it's trying to sell me its AI solution, and it really is annoying, isn't it, to show you that there. But each of these different things is a field within the form, which you can add a new one or delete them. So I could get rid of this field. So we've got an email, a name, an email, and a contact button, but no message, which is a rather pointless form, but we could save that one.
What happens if you don't want the fields required? Where do you change that?
Right, so I go to a particular field, and there's a field
I
setting.
see.
This field is required over here.
Thank you.
And you could fill in a placeholder if you wanted to, so give you some indication as to what you're supposed to fill in there. So if I publish this, view the page, here's the field. If I just press contact us, no, and it tells us what we need to do, fix that error. Now, has actually filled it in or not? Oh, it wasn't required. So I've now submitted a message. It says your message has been sent. So that email has probably gone to me on my email somewhere. It didn't say very much. Let's go back and edit the form and see if we can do something else. I'll go and click on here. What's this going to do? Click inside here. How do I add a field? Add after. Now I can choose a field, so I can choose one of these different types of fields. So let's have a date picker and see what that looks like. Looks like a date picker. Exciting stuff, eh?
Where do you do the email that's sent to?
Right, good question. So we're on the form here, submission settings, show a summary of submitted fields, your message heading, email address to send to, email subject line, and then loads of other stuff. So this is, if you want to do customer relationship management, you can increment that. Creative mail. No idea what that is, another plugin. And we can add a heading inside the form or before it to help everybody identify it. Do you need to do that? Not for a contact form.
Has it sent you an email?
Oh, I'd assume so. Let's go and have a look. Who is it going to? Dinlo.
I'm not sure you put an email address in. So
Well, it defaulted to the something. My contact form defaults to the address of the person that wrote the post or page that you're on, or you can overwrite it. Right, well, if it's sent it to Dinlo, that was no good because I don't have that set up on my email system, so let's go and change it. Where was it? On the form itself, on that. So I am Pompey. For those of you who aren't from Portsmouth, Dinlo is a word for someone who's stupid.
I didn't know that.
Ah, also known as a dinny.
I haven't heard that for years.
Portsmouth vernacular. Didn't you know, Mush?
Yeah, Mush is the other one, isn't it?
Daintain well, Mush is just it's a nice name, really, isn't it, as opposed to Dinlo? I don't suppose we're supposed to call people Dinlos if, according to our code of conduct. Right.
I've never heard that, but I don't come from Portsmouth.
Oh, well,
Never heard that.
you worked in Southsea. You worked in Commercial Road, didn't you?
I worked in that big black Zurich building,
Yeah.
Stanhope Avenue or something, Stanhope Road.
Right, let's have another go.
I've never heard, I claim not to come from Portsmouth. So what is the derivation of Dinlo?
Oh, I don't know. You have to search them for there we go. Look, see? Pompey at W received a message, word up Pompey.
It's a light-hearted insult which means fool. The
Yes.
term has its roots among the Romany gypsies. And I think that's where you get it from, your gypsy heritage.
No, I used to go to Portsmouth Grammar School and everyone's called Dinlos there.
I think you're one good gypsies.
Right, there we go. So there is the email that it sent to me from the Jetpack contact form. It's just put in the name and the date that I chose. And look, it even said it's sent by a verified WP Pompey user because I was actually logged into the site at the time.
That's all right.
So, well, yeah, Contact Form 7, of course, does blocks. It just allows you to insert a contact form into the page. My plugin does shortcode and/or blocks, and if the default block will have some fields in, but if you don't want them, you can delete them and do it. But it doesn't have different variations like the Jetpack one. So there you are. That's it. I'm going to go back to. What am I going to go back to? Visit the site. Click on here. On this blog post, this page, which is an event, we can see the slides. And when the video is recorded, I'll add it in here. We just go to the slides, and I'm going to do a bit of the closing up stuff at the end of the day. And let's go to present. So we've had a look at different types of contact forms. Contact Form 7, we didn't look at Contact Form WP Forms Lite. We looked at Jetpack's contact form, and we looked at Elementor's contact form. We haven't seen any of these ones, which is probably fine. And we've looked at other plugins that interface with Contact Form 7 to enable you to do extra bits. And we saw some spam. And we've talked about Pionet add-on forms. And we didn't talk about Phil's custom solution. Do you want to say something, Phil?
Well, this is stuff I've been doing, but not with WordPress. So that's one of the reasons I like to watch these, join you in these, because I'm trying to educate myself to potentially use WordPress for some of the things that I do. Mm-hmm. So yes, I've done contact forms, but in a PHP, HTML, CSS environment, not WordPress.
Right. But that's how people who are writing haven't quite yet learned how to write WordPress plugins might start with trying to produce a form on their website rather than choose to just install a plugin. And that's a great way of doing it, isn't it?
Well, I suppose it is, yes. I mean, if you can find a plugin that does what you want, then why bother to reinvent the wheel? But it's a question of knowing what's available and getting comfortable enough with using WordPress at all to create an entire site, which I still am not really there, because I find that I still struggle to get it to do what I wanted to do.
I did something
Is it
similar.
to do with the theme or the functionality?
Theme mainly. Yes, so it's trying to get it to do the page layout. I'm still trying to, and of course they've changed it all now, so it's all blocks. So now you've got the full site editor thing, and I've been trying to understand more about that. But I do have, it was a case of fumbling around and going, oh, I think that's what I want, rather than knowing what I'm doing, which
Right.
just doesn't feel very comfortable.
Right. Have you looked at, since Abba talked about it, what's the tutorials on learn.wordpress.org and tried all those different things?
Yes, I have. And some of them are quite good and some are harder to follow. So it just depends. Yeah, some of them are quite good. And so that's what I've been doing, is reading those, watching those, and trying to get myself a bit more educated. But then I go back and think, okay, so let's try and do what they did. And then I find myself having to go back and watch the video again, and then try, that sort of. So that's where I am at the moment with that.
Oh. Well,
I did something like that where our basic site is WordPress, but I go outside of WordPress to create this thing with a spore request form, which is like a contact form, but you can request fern spores. So we might have, I don't know how many we have, like 200 or 300. And this form that I built in PHP and HTML. You link to it from the website, but it's because I don't know, I'm not clever enough to write this in within WordPress. But it works.
Yeah.
You can sort of mix the two. You don't have to stay within WordPress, even if you have a WordPress site.
Yeah. Yes, I've done sort of the same thing experimentally, at least, by using a plugin with shortcodes to insert, for example, content that's coming from another database rather than the WordPress database containing information I was trying to display, things like that.
Yeah.
So I come very much from the coding direction of things.
Do you like WordPress?
I struggle with it. So I don't feel that I can sit down and get it to do what I want it to do most of the time. And so that makes me a bit uneasy about committing to use it for anything that I need to produce a result.
I think you do have to accept it's much faster to develop websites than doing it all yourself, but you have to accept some limitations. So you have to accept that you sometimes can't do what you'd really like to do. You have to compromise a bit. And but I learned WordPress on my own, from scratch, and Herb's helped me a bit along the way. But I don't think it's that difficult to get into from the point of view of just installing it and then searching for plugins, which would hopefully do what you want to do. And but there is obviously there's an overhead. I think it's quite good now. I think
I'm very impressed with what you can achieve with it, or what it can be achieved with it. The question is whether I can achieve it with it.
I would have thought so. If I can, I would have thought most people can.
Yeah, it's a question of how much time you devote to these things, I suppose.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Well, some of us got to play golf.
Herb spends almost all his life on WordPress.
No, it's on the golf course.
Well, maybe a couple of hours on the golf course and then 22 hours on WordPress.
No, I've actually
Hours sleep.
I actually reduced it a bit recently. I've been painting and decorating.
Have you been told off again?
No, look, there's a roller.
Yeah.
I've there's a ladder in the background that you can't see. So yes, but I'm trying to reduce the amount of time I spend on WordPress, but I do have great fun writing short codes to do weird and wonderful things. Like recently I discovered, did anyone do Wordle?
No.
No. Well, if you don't do Wordle, then you probably don't do Foodle. But there are two different Foodles I did, and after a while, sometime in December 2022, I thought, I've seen this word before. And so I started writing them down. And then about a month later, I realized maybe I saw it in Wordle. I better write that one down as well. So I wrote those down. And then after 4 months, I noticed that one of the Foodle ones I did, the one that doesn't actually keep statistics, went into a loop, started doing it, started reproducing the answers it did 4 months ago. So I thought, well, I might as well give up doing that one, but I didn't. I carried on doing it because I missed a few, and I wanted to see if it ever changed, and it never did. And then another of the Foodle ones I did, which had produced some really strange answers. I didn't have any idea with food because they came from different parts of the world, or just the names of chefs and restaurants in New York or something. That one started repeating middle of January, and I realized it actually started repeating at the beginning of January. So I wanted to keep going with that one to find out what happened on the 29th of February. And I got it right. So I've now got my website. I have published a bit of short code called TWIT, which stands for today's word is this. And it will give me the Foodle answers for those two different Foodles. Another example of a sequence, it tells you what day it is, Monday through to Saturday, which is a pointless exercise, of course, but it's a good test. Anyway, that's nothing to do with contact forms or anything. It's just time wasting. So let's move on, and we're going to get to the final bits of today's meetup. As always, we like to thank our WordPress global community sponsors, who this year are GoDaddy, Bluehost, Automatic, Woo, and WP Beginner. We've now got 614 members because another person joined before the meetup this evening. WordPress has 108 countries in which it has WordPress communities, meetups like this, 755 groups in total, over 500,000 people. And of the 6 different meetups that existed locally within southern England, only 3 of us are still going. Well, Exeter isn't actually still going, but Portsmouth and Brighton are still going, and we're nearly catching up with Brighton in terms of the number of people that attend, but I don't know what percentage of us are international and will never be able to make it down to Portsmouth. But if we are going to go down to Portsmouth, why not come to our 21st anniversary quiz somewhere in Portsmouth on the 22nd to 29th. Don't know what date we're going to do it yet. Of May, when WordPress will be 21 years old. We had a 20th anniversary quiz last year at the Customs House in Gunwharf Quays in Portsmouth, which was fairly well attended. Unfortunately, one person who couldn't find us, which was a bit of a shame because they sent us a photograph that included us in it, but we didn't have a sign to say this is a WordPress Portsmouth meetup, so we need to do something about that next time. Anyway, so that's how many of us are here. This is who's turned up to meetings and all that sort of stuff, and what's happening in the future. And it turns out that WordPress 6.5 wasn't released yesterday because there's a little problem with something to do with font libraries. So they're going to release WordPress 6.5 next week. There'll be a dry run on April the 1st. which is Bank Holiday Monday for us, is it?
Yes.
And then it gets released the next day. So it's a shame WordPress 6 Brighton meetup had a 6.5 launch party yesterday, and I don't know how that went. Coming up in the future, if you want to go to WordCamp Europe, you can book to go to Turin in Italy, and there's a link there. If you want to find out about more meetups, there's a new site called events.wordpress.org, which sort of summarizes what you can find out in meetup.com. And so our meetup is listed there today. And WordPress 6.6 and 6.7 are scheduled for appearing in the future. I used to do something about full site editing themes, but I've given up with that now. So you won't be able to see that in the future. This is what we did last year, and a number of different things were videoed and have been published, and you'll find them on the website and also on our YouTube thing. We're not doing so well with meetups this year. We didn't have one in February because I couldn't get around to organising it, and I'll be away in April for most of the stuff, so I won't schedule anything for that. But let's try to get together for a physical or in-person meetup, as it's called, in Portsmouth at the end of the railway line from Petersfield. Where have you got to come from, Phil?
Well, I'm in Chichester, but actually on that date, I'm going to be down in Hay-on-Wye. So unfortunately, I won't be able to join you.
There's a whole week. Which date? 22nd to 29th?
We're actually going to the Hay-on-Wye Book Festival. And that goes from, it's 2 weeks. So it's a big block of time starting on the 22nd and goes through to the 5th of June.
Oh, well. We just have to do it, have a hybrid quiz then, shall we?
Could be.
You'll be cheating now, I can see. Anyway, and then there's future months to come when we don't know what we're going to do on those ones. Did you know that WordPress 6.4 has been downloaded 121 million times? That if you're trying to find a plugin, you've got 59,310 to choose from. There is a backlog of plugins being submitted. There's 511 are being reviewed at the moment. That takes 32 days for them to get through that, so they say. There are nearly 12,000 WordPress themes to pick. So yes, it might be if you analysed one a day, how long will that take? The rest of your life? And there's 656 full site editing themes alone. And in total, of all the plugins that have been downloaded, that's 10.17 billion plugins, of which Yoast SEO or WordPress SEO is 656 million downloads. That's nearly sort of 3 million every time they release one, which of course is every fortnight, which is a bit much, isn't it? So there you go. We would like to say thank you to our sponsors who haven't been sponsoring us for a long time, but I still like to say it anyway. And that is our past 8 on thereabouts. Thank you all very much for coming. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop recording and stop sharing, and then we can have any further chat we want.